Well, everyone, we are entering into week number 3 of National season, so let's break down how this National season has unfolded, where the points are falling, and how many heroes we're actually going to see rotate come the end of National season. So if you take a look at the National Championship page on the Flesh and Blood website, you can see that there's a smattering of events that are still going to be played out this weekend. You've got Belgium National Championships, you've got Bulgaria, Canada is a big one that's coming up, Cyprus, Czechia, so on and so forth. As we go down the list, Greece, Hong Kong regionals, Hungary. There's a large number, like a third of them left, if you will, like a third left to go. And in fact, if you wanted to look at the total Living Legend points up until this point, and this is updated as of September the 4th, which is today, I'm recording this, or tomorrow's yesterday, if you can kind of break those words apart and figure out what I mean, there you go. That's when this was recorded and when this was updated. You can see that Briar, Warden of Thorns, like we know and saw in the first week of Nationals, is officially confirmed to hit the old Dusty Trail at the conclusion of this National season. In fact, actually winning some points over in, what was it, the UK as well? I think the UK, actually, Briar won the UK Nationals, if memory serves correctly. And Icelander sort of sitting on the precipice, but dropping off in points scored in the Nationals season this time around, though having a respectable 174 points throughout, including the Battle Hardens and PTIs as well. But the big point getter and the most played hero by far is Lexi Livewire. It's why I used her in the background. And it does, of course, beg the question, is this the best deck? The numbers don't lie. And the numbers say that, well, 230 points going to her across all the national championships, and over the course of this Dusk Till Dawn season, having the most, it's gotta be. It's gotta be the best deck. I have to eat my words. I was continually saying that Icelander is the best deck, and in my heart of hearts, I still feel that is the case. But you know what? The numbers don't lie, whether or not you think that it's all because of, just level of play and amount of play being brought across the world. Lexi still scores the points and is finally starting to convert and get those points, and it's done a number on her Living Legend status, and it's pushing her very close to the precipice of actually hitting Living Legend alongside of Briar in this season. And then behind that we have Dash, which just consistently gets small amounts of points here and there, and then the rest of the field is really kind of in the background, not making much of these big pushes, these big headways outside of Dromai, which is starting to climb. And I do think that Dromai is quite solid overall in the meta, and so you're seeing some amount of points going to Dromai, but really not nearly the amount that you might expect, and of course not nearly anything to rival these two heroes up here. So with only one weekend left of play in the Nationals season, this spreadsheet was put together by Vishra TCG. Shout out to Vishra TCG, by the way, doing fantastic work on this spreadsheet this entire time, and also just a great guy to talk to. I sat down and talked with him over at Battle Hardened Atlanta, and we talked quite a bit. He's a cool dude. But if you look at the breakdown over here, these are the Nationals that have been completed, and the Nationals that I have to make it seen on the screen. Let's make this a little easier for you to see. Haha, there it goes. See, we're doing things live because we love to do things live. There it is, done. So these are the Nationals that are completed, and these are the Nationals that have yet to be completed. So counting this up, we've got 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So 200 points from the 96 or above player cap Nationals that are still yet to be played. 200 points available, and then when you count the ones that are smaller and only give 10 points, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it looks like a total of 260 points available just to the Nationals. Now, if any of these are running PTI events next to this that are classic constructed, then you could see points go in excess of that 260 total, with Lexi taking, like I said, a large portion of those and Briar following it up. It stands to reason that if 260 points are available, so coming back over to this sheet, as you see, if there are 260 points or so, there is a small chance that Lexi can just run the table at, this weekend's events and run away with it and push herself into the Living Legend status. And if she does do that, she would be joining the likes of Briar, Prism, Oldhim, Chain, and Bravo star of the show. I don't think it's going to happen. I think she's going to get very close, but I think she'll fall just slightly short in National season, which almost all but guarantees her to hit Living Legend in ProQuest season, which means the ProQuest season that's taking place right after Nationals, but before the World Championships, will be yet again dominated by Lexi. And that's going to be interesting because if it is dominated by Lexi, does Icelander get enough points over the next weekend plus ProQuest season to actually find her way to the top as well? Because as you see, these PTIs and ProQuests are only worth 2 points now. And if they're only worth 2 points, then you're going to have to find a way to gather up a whole bunch of those wins to cross the finish line. Let's just assume, though, that both of these heroes find a way to do it. They find a way to cross over that threshold and both make their way into the Living Legend status alongside Briar. Well, what are we left with? Besides any new heroes that are released into the game that we already know about or that we don't know about in the upcoming couple of sets, or really I should say the UPF set, the Professor's Round the Table set, or the upcoming Bright Lights set, of which we know one new hero, one revamped perhaps Dash hero, and one unknown hero that could be CC or could not be. These are what we have. We have normal Dash, we have Viserai, Phi, Katsu, Bravo, which I think is a really interesting pick going forward. Dromai, which is perhaps going to be considered the best deck going forward. Who knows? If these two heroes rotate, these two. If those two heroes rotate, do we all of a sudden just think that Dromai is now the de facto best deck? Or does, the release of these two aggro / combo / slightly controlled disruption decks open the floodgates for Phis and Katsus to just start coming out and playing, and then allow you to basically push down Dromai because they have the ability to just remove dragons with impunity. It'll be an interesting meta to see if that actually does come into play. And then you also have to look at like Bravo Showstopper being a kind of de facto control deck, or maybe Dorinthia as a de facto control deck as well. And Azalea, which is a curious case because Azalea is hated on with heavy quotes by Warmonger's Diplomacy, and yet we've seen Azaleas just do really well. Now, they haven't won the points that we would hope for or expect, but we've seen Azaleas do really well in some of these recent national tournaments. So the question becomes, if some of these heroes, peel off and just exit the format, does now Azalea have the capability of just playing into these into this meta without these two? I don't necessarily know if these two leaving changes the complexion for Azalea, but what I do think is that we're going to see a lot more Azuris, because it's perhaps Azuri's time if these two ride off. Not that Azuri had a bad time at Alexi. I think actually Azuri had a really decent time at Alexi. And I'm not so sure about the Azuri into Icelander matchup. I haven't played that one much myself from the Azuri perspective. I have played a good bit of Azuri, but I'd be curious to know. Let me know in a comment down below how you felt the Azuri Icelander matchup played out. But I think Azuri is one of those really interesting kind of meta heroes that just floats around and does stuff in the background that people just aren't respecting. And we saw 2 of them in UK Nats this past weekend in the top 8, and that's kind of a big deal. And then, of course, you've got your kind of meta breakers of Kano just always showing up and stirring the pot. And your, not even Sir Bolton, your Reinars that for some reason are just always hated on and pushed down. And yet Reinar just does like subtle work in the background. It's going to be a really interesting meta to see if, some of these heroes down here just immediately pop up into these positions if those two heroes rotate. And I do think that there's a real capacity to see both of them rotate in the next 2 seasons, if you will. I'm curious to know if she makes it somehow to the finish line at the end of Nats. It'd be quite impressive, unless I'm missing some amount of events inside PTIs that could count for points as well. And I think the final question to ask is, what developments do we get out of both this UPF set, which is almost like a supplemental set, and also this, Bright Lights only Mechanologist set? Because if It provides Mechanologist another avenue to play a bunch of poppers, you know, and just like throw out 6 attacks with impunity. Then Dromai gets kind of pushed down by that to some degree. And so does Prism, Awakener of Soul, unless there's just something we haven't thought of that breaks Prism wide open. And then Vinset is another one of those question marks that maybe one of these like special cards that falls into that expansion slot, if you will. Is there something to push Vinset a little harder, or are we just missing something in general? And I will tell you, I know that there's going to be some pretty spicy stuff throughout this set. I'll just put it that way. I know there's going to be some really cool stuff, and I've heard that a lot of people have already started to see some spoilers for that set, and I myself have also seen a spoiler for that set, and I've started working on a video for it, so if you'd like to see what spoiler I have up my sleeves, check here in a week and a little bit. Just a week and a little bit, and we'll be spoiling our own card from the upcoming Bright Lights set. So this is where the meta stands as we speak, as of September the 4th, and who knows what we could see going forward. I personally am quite excited to see both of these heroes try and make their way out of the format and into the new Living Legend format, which will be featured at the World Championships. And I'm really crossing my fingers and hoping that I can make it to the World Championships over in Spain, if for no other reason than to maybe pick up one of these heroes in the old LL format and give it a whirl there. So if you enjoyed this video, make the number go slightly higher so that we can see numbers going up above my head, because that is exciting. And as always, thanks for watching.